This is the first UbuCon in a year or two here. The last one I think was done by Amber Grainer 2 years ago. So we're happy to be back for this. Before we get started, I really want to thank Southeast Linux Fest for hosting another UbuCon again, and especially Jeremy Sands, who's been really good at helping me get all of this set up and going, because I am from Florida, so it's been kind of a long-distance organization for us. We've got some great speakers lined up today. We have Mauricio, is he in here? Yes, over there, who's going to be talking about using Arduino and Ubuntu together. We've got Rick Spencer, the VP of Engineering from Canonical, who's going to be giving us a retrospective on where Ubuntu started from and how we got to where we are now and where we're going in the future. We have Aaron Honeycutt, who is not in here. He's part of my team down in Florida, the LoCo Team, and he's also part of the Ubuntu team. And he's going to be giving a talk about uniting documentation across different projects. We have supposedly Ken Van Dyne's coming. I haven't seen him yet today, so I really hope he's here. But he's got a great talk about app security and confinement on Ubuntu. And then, of course, there's me. I'm Michael Hall. I'm a community manager at Canonical. Have been there for 2 years now. Oh, we have t-shirts. We have one t-shirt for every presentation today. So whoever asks the best question for each of the presentations gets a shirt. We have 5 XL, 1 XX, and 1 large. So if you need something that's not XL, ask good questions early on. Again, they're 4 good questions. It's going to be up to the speaker to decide who asked the best question. And we have a microphone down here we'll pass around after the sessions for that. We are following the self-schedule, so same hour blocks, same 15-minute breaks. So if you want to go to another presentation and then come back to this, you'll know we follow the same break schedule. So you don't need to get up and leave in the middle of anyone's presentation for us or for anybody else. We are also following the same lunch schedule. So when self breaks for lunch, we're going to break for lunch. Go get yourself something to eat so you come back refreshed and ready to ask more questions. At the very end of this, at 5 o'clock, I believe, 5:15, we're doing an open Q&A. So anything that wasn't brought up in one of the previous sessions that you want to ask about, you can ask about. I'll be here. I'm going to rope some other people who are going to be around into being up here on stage with me to answer any kind of questions. So anything about software development on Ubuntu, community stuff, Ubuntu, cloud server things, anything that you want that's not been covered in a previous topic. All right, I'm going to start things off with a presentation about UbuCons and also about LoCo teams and being active in your communities. All right, so first of all, UbuCons. What is an UbuCon? If any of you have been to one before, you know. But an UbuCon is really just a mini conference. It's a series of talks given by people who care about Ubuntu or are involved in Ubuntu, to people who care about it and are interested in users, really just kind of giving a talk within a wider organization like SELF that is very specific to Ubuntu. UbuCons are generally community run. The fact that I'm organizing this one is a bit of an exception. Like I said before, we've had Amber Grainer doing it, who was in the community. Some of the bigger UbuCons, the ones out in California and in South America and in Europe, are all community-run events. They pick where it's going to be. They pick the speakers. They organize the venues. Everything is done by community. It's all their choice. It's not something that Canonical comes down and says, okay, we want to do an UbuCon here. Somebody go do that. But we do support UbuCons. We send them materials. Like I said, we've got shirts that we were sent from Canonical to give away. We support them with money and with organizational support when they need it. So we are very much involved, even if we're not leading it. We do want to see UbuCons succeed and the people who are organizing them to be successful. Where are UbuCons being held? I mentioned already there's some in various places. These are the active UbuCons going on right now. We've got, tried not to fall off here. We've got UbuCon at Scale. That's the Southern California Linux Expo. That's a huge show and also a very big UbuCon there. Has been going on for a while. UbuCon LA, which bounces around different countries in South and Central America. The next one is going to be in Lima, Peru later this year. We've got UbuCon at FaucetCon, which started just last year, because FaucetCon just started last year. We're very happy to be there. That's in Orlando, Florida, so right in our backyard, so we get to go to that easily. Of course, there's UbuCon itself again now. We've got UbuCon in Germany, which is going on this year, and next year they're already planning on a bigger UbuCon Europe that's going to hopefully attract more people from all over the continent for that one. And like I said, these are just the active ones. There are past UbuCons that have been all over the US, all over South America and Europe, even I think a couple that have been in Africa. So there have been a lot of UbuCons over time, and they're still active and going strong. So if you want to get involved in an UbuCon, what can you do? Best thing you can do is become a speaker. Some of you know I've spent the last few weeks trying to organize a bunch of people to come here and speak, and it's not always easy. Getting people to stand up in front of a room of people is not always easy. I want to thank the people who are going to speak today for volunteering for that. I do appreciate that. If you don't want to get up and be a speaker, help recruit speakers, because that is, again, the hardest part of running an UbuCon is getting good speakers lined up for it. So if you know people in your local lugs, your university, if you're involved in a LoCo team and you know people who will give a good presentation, please share that around when you hear about somebody looking for speakers and help them get involved. Helping organize it is another good thing that you can do. Self has been really good about getting us the room, some waters for all of our speakers here, but there's still a lot of organizing that goes around. So if you can get involved early on that really helps the people who are trying to get it off the ground. And then help set up. That's less of an issue for something like this because, again, the self staff have done all the setup and everything. Some UbuCons are standalone though. UbuCon LA is standalone, UbuCon Europe is standalone. So there's gonna be a lot of setup involved in those. So you can get involved there, helping set up podiums and wiring, Ethernet and microphones and all of that good stuff. And of course, would you like to run your own UbuCon? Of course you'd like to run your own UbuCon. UbuCons are fun. If you want to run your own UbuCon, everything okay? All right. If you want to run your own UbuCon, the first thing you want to ask is, do you want to run it standalone or co-hosted? I mentioned there's two different varieties. They both have their benefits. If you run it standalone, you get to choose where it's going to be and when it's going to be. You have full control over that, but then again, you're also responsible for finding out where it's going to be and when it's going to be and paying for that. Co-hosted is something like Self and Scale, where we team up with an existing conference and we work with them to get a room set aside just for us to run UbuCon at. That really cuts down the cost of getting it started, cuts down on the amount of organization that you need to do to get an UbuCon going. But you do have to have a conference that's near you and has a room that you can use. Hey, Ken is here, Ken Van Dyne. All right, and again, you'll notice a recurring thing. Recruiting speakers is something that you're going to have to go through. I sent out emails to the Ubuntu LoCo teams, to Canonical Engineering, and to a few other places, and got a few responses, but not too many. So then we had Ubuntu Online Summit, and I spoke with some of the past UbuCon organizers, because this is my first UbuCon ever, so I really didn't know what I was doing. So I talked to some of the past organizers, and they gave me some advice, reaching out to different lugs in the area, that kind of thing, which did get me some new speakers, which is nice. We're putting together documentation for people who want to run UbuCons to make this a little bit easier to get that advice down in writing. It's going to be probably on wiki.ubuntu.com/UbuCon, I think is the current page. Again, you can get help from Ubuntu. You can email LoCo teams, the different Ubuntu development mailing lists to get help there. And you can reach out to Canonical, both for speakers and for help with organization and materials for the UbuCon. All right, moving on a little bit from UbuCon, I'm going to talk about LoCo teams. Who here is involved in a LoCo team? 1, 2. That's it? Wow. All right, well, this is all going to be new to everybody then. What is a LoCo team? An Ubuntu LoCo team stands for local community. That's people who use Ubuntu in your local area. Usually in the US, it's state level. For most of the time, it's country level. So like there's a UK LoCo Team, there's a French LoCo Team, a German LoCo Team, a Colombian LoCo Team. Usually they're by country. For bigger countries like the US, they're broken down by state. So every state has a LoCo Team. Florida has one. Chris and I are there. Georgia has one. South Carolina has one. North Carolina has one. Virginia has one. Some are more active than others. One of the important advantages of LoCo Teams is that they are in your own language. So most of Ubuntu, the common language is English. But if you're in Colombia and everybody around you is speaking Spanish, you want to be able to do things in your native tongue. So LoCo Teams are a great way to be involved in Ubuntu, but still use your own language. And they're also specific to your culture. So the Ubuntu Spain LoCo Team is going to be different from the Ubuntu Colombia LoCo Team. And that really gives you a sense of belonging and a familiarity that really makes LoCo Teams really nice. So who gets involved in LoCo Teams? Everybody gets involved in LoCo Teams. Anybody can get involved in LoCo Teams. These are a couple of pictures that I grabbed off the internet quickly. Here in the middle is the Ubuntu Florida LoCo Team. This was a big barbecue party that we threw right as I was getting involved in Ubuntu, actually. This was, I think, 2009. So you can see, we've got all genders, ethnicities. We've got kids of all ages there. We've got, let's see if I can get this right. I think that's Mortius LoCo Team. That's the French LoCo Team. Down there is, I believe, Myanmar. And up in the top corner is Colombia. But you can see we have a wide variety of people. When you start running a LoCo Team and hosting events, you'll find that you get much more variety than you would expect. All right, where are LoCo Teams currently? LoCo Teams are all over the world. We've got LoCo Teams in every continent but Antarctica, in most countries too. We currently have 187 active LoCo Teams, and that's in 109 different countries. LoCo Teams, one of the important things that they do is they run local events. They don't have to be big events like Self or even UbuCon. They can just be small get-togethers where people meet up at coffee houses. Last year we had just shy of 300 team events that were organized that we know about, and those were 179 of those were involved in what we call global events. What are global events? Global events are kind of umbrella events that we create that we want multiple LoCo Teams to be involved in. So they're things like release parties. Every 6 months we set up a release party global event, and then all the LoCo Teams that want to throw a release party in their area, they register for that so that we know who's doing that. Every cycle we do what's called a global jam. We do that about halfway through the cycle, right before feature freeze. And the intent of those is to get people together to spend a day working on one specific thing with Ubuntu to get that done and ready to go for that release. So whether that's fixing documentation, fixing bugs, writing new code. We've got a whole webpage devoted to Global Jam describing the different things that you can do. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a big organized thing. Most of the global jams I've gone to were just at somebody's house, and we sat around their kitchen table with our laptops, and we worked on one project or another. We have Ubuntu hours, and the Ubuntu hours are really more of a social thing. So the idea behind Ubuntu hour is once a week, once a month, you have a recurring event for your LoCo team. It's going to be at the same place. It's going to be at the same time. It's only for an hour. And it's just to get together and to meet up with people, your friends in your area that use Ubuntu and are interested in Ubuntu. The Ubuntu California team has been especially good about this. They've been hosting an Ubuntu hour every month for like 2 years now. Some of the other teams have also taken advantage of that. The Ubuntu Florida team did a couple of those, but we haven't. Our problem is we've got people spread out too far. The Ubuntu California team, they've got so many people up right in the San Francisco area that it's easy for them. But for example, Chris and I are 2-3 hours away from each other, so it's hard to meet up for an hour for that. We've recently introduced app dev schools. As you'll hear later on today, app development is big for us now. We've got a phone. We've got a new UI toolkit and SDK and everything. So So we're trying to spread out information on that and teach people how to write apps. And as part of that, we've got some material that people can use to give their own presentations on app development. And then we also participate in the Global Software Freedom Day. This isn't an Ubuntu event specifically, but it is something that we do try and get our LoCo teams involved in. So that's one of the global events that we also target. And in fact, the map that I showed you earlier, this is using Google Maps, but the numbers there actually represent just the teams participating in one of our global jams from a couple of years back. So you can see we had like 40, 50 teams that were throwing, that were holding a global jam event. And that really helps when you get 40 or 50 groups together, even if it's 2 or 3 people per group, that's 100, 150 people that are working over a weekend on Ubuntu. So we get a lot done during global jams. We have the LoCo Team portal, which is the central place for listing LoCo Team events. That's where I got my numbers earlier from. It's up at loco.ubuntu.com. This is a community-run website, started by community, still maintained by community. I was involved with this for a little while before I got hired at Canonical, and for a little while afterwards too, but it's got a new maintainer now. And that will let you list your events on there, including the venue. It'll give you a shareable link that you can use to spread it around. People can register that they're attending or not, so you can see how many people to expect to be there. And it helps us track LoCo Team activity too, which is really nice. We have something called verified LoCo teams. So when you first start a LoCo team, you start off unverified. You do some events, you get organized, you build a team structure, and then you can seek verification. Verified teams are teams that have shown to be active, shown that they're well organized, and that they're reliable when they go to an event, either running their own event or attending a conference. We have something called the LoCo Council, which is a team of community volunteers who oversee our LoCo teams. They're responsible for the verification process. So when your team is ready to seek verification, you would go to them and you would say, okay, here's how we're set up. Here are the events that we've been involved in. List some of your activity, and then they'll review that and say, okay, yeah, everything looks good. You're verified. And once you're verified, you get to get supplies from Canonical. So the LoCo Council really is there to make sure that Canonical resources are going to teams that are going to use them well. So once you're verified, you can get release DVDs for your team. Since we stopped doing Ship It, where we would send individual CDs to individual people, the best way to get new DVDs of Ubuntu releases is through your LoCo team. And verified LoCo teams are eligible to get a free box of those every release. You also get things like conference packs. So if you're going to like a Southeast Linux Fest and Canonical's not sending people there to set up a booth and you want to run a booth, you can ask for a conference pack, and that'll give you a banner, a tablecloth, DVDs to give away, pens to give away, that kind of thing. Again, release DVDs, conference packs. So if you want to join your LoCo team, first thing you want to do, well, obviously first you want to find your LoCo team. Like I said, there's one in every state, whether it's active or not, kind of depends. But find which one is local to you. Introduce yourself. They're usually going to have an IRC channel or a mailing list or something like that where you can do that. And you can start getting involved that way. You can help organize events. Anybody can organize a LoCo team event. You don't need to be one of the LoCo leaders to decide that. You just pick a place and a time and tell people you're going to be there and convince other people to show up. But if you do get involved and you're enjoying it, please consider stepping up for leadership. One of the hardest things that LoCo teams have is finding leaders. And when we get leaders, we tend to keep the same leaders for years until life gets in the way and they have to step down. And if we don't have new leadership ready, when that happens, then the LoCo teams tend to slow down and become less active. So if you're involved and you're enjoying it, please consider taking more of a leadership role in your LoCo team. And if you need help, if you find that there's used to be a LoCo team in your area, but it's not active anymore and you can't get in touch with the people who organized it, and you want to take over that LoCo team, you can contact the LoCo Council and they can help you with that. The Southeast specifically needs some help. When I was reaching out to LoCo teams here, I found that the Carolinas and the Georgia LoCo teams have not been very active lately, which was kind of sad to see because they used to be quite active. So if you think that you want to get involved with the LoCo team, please get these restarted. They really need some new help, some new blood in there. Really a good opportunity for you to make a difference in your area and attract people to Ubuntu. There's a lot of Ubuntu users in these states. They're just looking for somebody to set up the team and start organizing events. All right, that's the end of my presentation. Remember, we have shirts to give away to the best questions. So if you have questions, we have a microphone down here. Just raise your hand. Any questions about LoCo teams, about UbuCons, about this UbuCon specifically? No? No questions? No shirt? Come on, someone wants a shirt. Ken wants a shirt. Oh, yes. Mauricio also brought us some Arduinos to give away. Oh, now somebody's interested.
So, K11 question. I saw there's going to be a K11 speaker later.
Yes.
You want to answer as a community manager, or do you want me to wait for his talk?
Is it Ubuntu specific?
What's going on with the Ubuntu and Ubuntu Council and them telling
okay.
oh, what's his name? I can't believe I forgot his name.
Right. So yeah, the Ubuntu Council and the Community Council are talking about moving forward on that. I don't want to say anything more than that, other than that we are talking and we are working it out and moving forward. It's a very long, complicated story. No, he's still involved in Ubuntu. Yeah, I was involved in that because I'm on the community council. So it's a long, painful process that we went through to get there, and there's still going to be a lot of long, painful process to get through the rest of it. But we are working it out. Everyone wants to work it out and to move forward with a happy and a healthy Ubuntu and Ubuntu.
Actually, use Ubuntu.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we don't want anything to happen to Ubuntu. We want Ubuntu to keep going to keep thriving because they're doing really cool stuff. The new Plasma 5 that's landing is really, really neat. So we're trying really hard not to let this interfere with the actual development of Ubuntu. Yes. Oh yeah, we got a microphone. Everything here is being live streamed over YouTube, just to let everyone know. So please use the microphone so that people can hear.
Okay, if you wanted to organize an UbuCon, say on Software Freedom Day, you had a venue that cost money, where would you go and try to get finances for it?
Very good question. We have a community donations fund. Let me talk about that real quick. So first of all, what time is it? Do I have time to talk about this? Okay. So when you go to download Ubuntu through the main website now, if you go to ubuntu.com/download, you'll see that there's a form where it asks you if you want to donate some money to help Ubuntu. And you'll have different sliders you can choose from on where you want that money to go, whether it's cloud server development, desktop development. And one of those options is going to the community. And if you donate money to that community slider, that gets made available then to LoCo teams and to Ubuntu members. We have a form on community.ubuntu.com where people can go and they can request some of that money to use for improving Ubuntu, whether it's going to an event. So we pay for travel for people to go to events, like the Academy where they plan kitties development, or even to UbuCons. We also supply money for people who are running UbuCons to help them pay for the venue and the hotel setup and things like that. So if you are running an UbuCon, if you are an Ubuntu member, or if you're in a LoCo team that's been verified, you can ask for some of that money that way. Ubuntu membership, for those that don't know, is something that you can get after you've been contributing to Ubuntu for a while. It's similar to the process that LoCo teams go through to get verified. We got a different group that oversees that process, but being an Ubuntu member gives you certain privileges and responsibilities in the project. So it gets you get to use an ubuntu.com email address, you get to use Ubuntu logo and name in business cards, but it also lets you request money from this community fund, because once you've becoming an Ubuntu member tells us that, okay, you've shown that you're committed to the Ubuntu project. You do good things. You consistently help out. So that money is going to be well spent if we give it to you. If you want more information on that, you can go to wiki.ubuntu.com/membership, and it'll detail both what it takes to become a member and what you get as a member. All right, any other questions? Rick?
I'm in a LoCo, but it's not very active. So I'm in the DC LoCo, which is not a state, by the way.
Yes. Hey, blame Madison for that.
So I'm in the DC LoCo, and it's a bunch of fun people. And when we do have events, people come. But it's like everybody would like to participate, but it's hard for anyone to find the time to actually organize an event. So I was wondering if the LoCo Council might be working on maybe sort of pre-packaged parties and that kind of thing, just to make it easier to host an event.
It is hard to come up with a generic thing that'll work for all LoCo teams. One thing we started doing last year for the Global Jam is we put together a Global Jam pack, which was just a prepackaged set of materials that any LoCo team, verified or not, that was hosting a Global Jam could request, and we would send that out to them. And that gave them a shirt, some DVDs, some pens and stickers and stuff to give out there. And that really helped. But as far as like securing a venue, I'm not sure what we can do that would be generic enough to work for all LoCo teams.
Yeah, I guess securing a venue that's not hard. For just having like a party, like once we just got together for drinks,
Yeah.
And that was pretty easy because I just called the bar in my neighborhood and they said yes, come and buy beer from us.
Yes. The two easiest things you can do for venues are coffee shops. You just show up, you buy some coffee, you sit around a table, or somebody's house. I've been to multiple global jams at somebody's house. I've hosted different events at my house. So those are the easiest ways to do it. There's a setup required for either one of those. And again, even if it's just 2 or 3 people, you can have an Ubuntu event.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions? No? Anyone in the back? All right, well, because I got to talk about community donations, I'm going to give this one to Chris. Chris, do you want an Arduino or do you want a shirt? All right. USB.
The Snappy run on those?
No, not on Arduino. Snappy, is anyone talking about Snappy? Are you talking about Snappy?
I have a lot on Snappy.
Okay. So Snappy's a really cool new technology that Rick's going to talk a little bit about. It doesn't run on Arduino, but it will run on Raspberry Pi. Aaron, do you have a question or are you stretching?
I have a question.
Okay.
What kind of topics would you suggest for Ubuntu hour?
So Ubuntu hours, like I said, I'm not sure if you were in here when I was talking about that, but they're really social events. So we don't expect people to sit down and code for an hour or write documentation for an hour. It's really just a way of getting together with people in your LoCo team and spending some time together. For global jams, though, we've got a list of things that we'd like people to do, from coding to documentation to advocacy. So there's a lot of things that you can do for an Ubuntu hour, and that usually spans an entire weekend. So you can pick one day that weekend to host your global jam.
I held one last in February. I didn't have much of an outcome, but I was doing.
Can we send the microphone back to you so that people watching on the internet can hear you?
I held a global jam in February. Wasn't much of an outcome, but I was going to do a tutorial about starting with the SDK using the documents provided to start doing RSS scope or feed.
But
like I said, it wasn't much of an outcome because the Florida LoCo doesn't seem very active at the time.
yeah, the Florida LoCo used to be really active when I started, and it has slowed down a bit. And again, because we've got people in Miami and then we've got people up in Tallahassee, that's, it's hard to get everybody together. But I know, and that's dividing the U.S. up by states too. We have that problem. But we need to do a release party or something with the whole team again.
Last Thursday there was a Chronicle Point that came down to do a talk about services that Ubuntu Chronicle provide, and after that, a few of us went to a pub and basically celebrated the 1504 release, and he went over the new features and everything.
Who was that? Was that Andre?
Andre.
Yes. That guy's awesome.
I met him, and I held a BQ phone for first time for
Oh, he has
Ubuntu.
a BQ phone?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have a BQ phone. We're going to have a couple of Nexus 4 phones at our table to show off. You've got your BQ, or you can go stalk Ken Van Dyne over here and try and take his BQ from him for a little while. Oh, the pre-release one. So you still have, it's got the buttons on it, yeah. You have a Meizu? All right. Well, that's the end of this presentation. The next one starts 15 after the hour, I think. Check the schedules. All right, so at 10:15, Mauricio is going to be talking about Arduino and Ubuntu. So if you're interested in embedded development and using Ubuntu for that, come back at 10:15 for that talk. All right, thank you, everyone.
Oh, I think they're both in your port.
Oh,
And the question cannot involve in training. You get a little bump.
oh,
Well, I was for this.
what do you have to, for every qualification to be a leader?
Not put a lot of effort.
Leaders are just like people who say questions.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, there's no requirement. It's just the people who step up and become leaders. That's all that it takes. And every project, every local team is always looking for leaders. So anyone who's willing to step up generally gets it.
When he's pushing legs and he does legs, he lets it, room to.
Yeah. There's no age restrictions. There's nothing you got to be involved in. Anything like that. Oh, I need to switch this over to the before you don't. I don't.
So, well, he's much more knowledgeable than I am. Well, you see, next presentation, we might have a change.
That's the one I'm supposed to switch it to.
All right, thank you very much. See you around.
Citrix Zen Server gives you everything you need to integrate, manage, and automate a virtual data center, all on an enterprise-class, cloud-proven virtual platform, and at a third of the cost of other solutions. But why even bother with virtualizing your server infrastructure in the first place? Well, let's say you have a traditional one server to one application architecture, but you're running out of resources and performance is suffering. Once you order new server hardware, you'll wait for delivery, configure it, install your business application, stage and test the server, and finally, add it to your production farm. If you've been through this process before, you know it can take weeks or even months. You also know it's a manually intensive process that will burden your team every time you outgrow your current setup. With a virtual server solution, you could accomplish all of that in less than half a day. Server virtualization software separates the OS and application from the underlying server hardware. And with multiple virtual machines on a single server, you can use each of them to run different OSs and applications. This makes it possible to move your virtual machines from one piece of hardware to another whenever you want, to maximize utilization, simplify maintenance, or recover from a hardware failure, and without slowing down your applications or users. Clearly, server virtualization provides big benefits, and Citrix Zen Server provides even more. Since it's built on an open platform, Zen Server plays well with your existing hardware, storage systems, and IT management software, as well as with the industry's leading cloud service providers. Best of all, you can get started by downloading a fully functional, production-ready version of Zen Server for free. After a 10-minute installation process, you'll see how easy it is to start virtualizing your workloads and automating your IT management processes. And when you're ready for a richer set of management tools, just upgrade to one of the premium editions of Zen Server. So whether you're interested in virtualizing servers for the first time, expanding your server virtualization footprint, or moving server workloads to the cloud, download and install Zen Server today and see how it can help you simplify your IT environment. Citrix Zen Server. Do more. Don't spend more.
Your customers rely on your website or application. If it's slow or non-responsive, it infuriates your users and costs you money. Keeping your business-critical systems humming along requires insight into what they're doing. Your system metrics tell stories that can reveal performance bottlenecks, resource limitations, and other problems. But how do you keep an eye on all of your system's performance metrics in real time and record this data for later analysis? Enter Longview, the new way to see what's really going on under the hood. The Longview dashboard lets you visualize the status of all your systems, providing you with a bird's eye view of your entire fleet. You can sort by CPU, memory, swap, processes load, and network usage. Click a specific system to access its individual dashboard, then click and drag to zoom in on choke points and get more detail. Comprehensive network data, including inbound and outbound traffic, is available on the Network tab, and Disk Writes and Free Space on the Disks tab, while the Process Explorer displays usage statistics for individual processes. The System Info tab shows listening services, active connections, and available updates. Adding Longview to a system is easy. Just click the button, copy the one-line installation command, then run the command on your Linux system to complete the process. The agent will begin collecting data and sending it to Longview. Then the graphs start rolling. Use Longview to gain visibility into your servers, so when your website or app heats up, it stays up.